Hey designers, in today's video, I want to give you 3 tips I use to transition from finance to UX design. These are 3 things that I actually did to start applying to jobs and land my first UX gig. One of the coolest things about being a UX designer is a lot of the foundational concepts can be applied to much more than just digital products. One of those concepts is called design thinking. As simple as possible, design thinking is a 5-step process that helps you solve problems. You do this by trying to understand the problem, defining it, ideating or guessing how to solve it, and then prototyping the solution, and finally testing it. If the problem isn't fixed, you simply take what you've learned and apply it to the next iteration of the solution. And as you can probably guess from that explanation, problem solving is something we've all done in every one of our jobs. Ever had to make a new process to solve a problem that you were facing at your job? You probably use design thinking. What about taking a paper and submitting it to a teacher, having the teacher give you feedback and having to fix the paper? That's design thinking. Other soft skills that you use also belong on your resume. Things like meeting deadlines, especially in an agile environment, is super important. All those soft skills that you've built over your career can really flesh out your resume and make you a very appealing candidate. And speaking of soft skills, one of the most important things to work on is presentation. I didn't think I was going to need it as much as I did, but I actually joined Toastmasters early on in my career to work on my public speaking. That skill really translated into UX design, as you spend a lot of time presenting your designs and thought processes to a lot of different stakeholders. I definitely suggest if you aren't comfortable presenting in front of people, you definitely start practicing that and working on it. It translates to the interview process all the way through becoming a senior leader. The second thing I didn't even realize was going to be as big of a win as it was. But utilizing recruiters, which are a really close second to actually just having an employee refer you to a job, is a great way to get your foot in the door at companies. There's a ton of recruiters out there that are really hungry to get placements of people. And once they get somebody in, they actually get a small cut of the salary that you're getting. So they're very motivated to actually get you into a job as fast as possible. In addition to having recruiters work for you, they're a great way to practice your interviewing skills. Every time you get in contact with a recruiter, the first thing you're going to do is have a phone screen with them, where they're going to ask you about your experience, try to hit on some keywords that the job posting has going for it, and wanting to really understand if you're a good fit for that company or not. Contract to hire just means that you get started as a contractor with the option to convert to a full-time employee later. Sometimes the contract to hire things can be 3 months, sometimes they can be a year. Generally speaking, you can convert at any time though. It's just a matter of communicating with your hiring manager and really understanding what they're looking for from a timeline perspective. And one of the cool parts about contract to hire work is you get to try the job on for size. You get to really understand if you like the work, the collaboration, your team, everything before you make the commitment of being a full-time employee. It's not all great though. There are definitely some cons to contract work, and some of those cons are a deal breaker for people. The number one being, it's actually a lot riskier. As a contract worker, you don't have as many protections as a full-time employee. That means the contract can be canceled at any time. It's not super different from at-will employment, but it is a little bit easier to cut a contract worker than a full-time employee. And it's not just the risk. Most contract work comes with no benefits, no retirement plan, and a lot of the extra perks that full-time employees get, like even having lunch paid for, doesn't happen for contract workers. And without those benefits and the added risk, contractors usually command a little bit higher of a pay rate, which is awesome when you're actually working. Just be prepared, because if you do convert to full-time employment, it sometimes comes with a pay cut to offset the benefits you get as an employee. And the easiest way to get noticed by recruiters is LinkedIn. Update your profile and change your status to open to work, looking for UX design roles, and then look for jobs posted by technology staffing agencies like Randstad, Creative Circle, or Tech Systems. A big part of being a UX designer is getting feedback and putting it to work. That feedback can come from users, from stakeholders, or other designers. Being open to that feedback and implementing it in a way that makes sense is a really important skill to have. So when you're transitioning into UX, one of the most important places to be looking for feedback is on you yourself as a candidate. And the best place to get that feedback is from people that are trying to hire you. So at the end of every interview, I ask one really important question. Is there anything about me as a candidate that gives you hesitation for hiring me? It's a scary question to ask because you're almost inviting confrontation. You're asking the interviewer right then and there to give you feedback, potentially negative feedback, on yourself as a candidate. But it does 2 things. The first is it shows that you're coachable and you want to learn. And as an entry-level designer, that's invaluable. Most people can learn some of the hard skills involved with it, but that soft skill of actually being coachable is not always easily taught. The second, especially in the first couple of interviews, really helps you understand how the interview process is going to go and what you can do to improve your next interviews. And it's not just hiring managers you can ask that question to. Anybody you talk to that has a role in the hiring process, from the recruiter to the HR inside the company to the hiring manager, ask any of them the question. They should be able to give you some kind of feedback that'll help you improve your chances, if not in this interview, in the next ones. And my last tip, not too difficult, but that's just to apply to a lot of jobs. There's a lot of school of thoughts around applying for jobs. For instance, do you tailor your resume every time you apply for a job? Or do you have to meet all the requirements? My answer is no. I create a resume for the role that I want, for instance, a senior design role, and then I apply to all the senior design roles that I think would be a good fit for it. I'm not going to change my resume up every single time, and I also realize with a lot of the automation that goes into application tracking systems, there's really no point in doing a lot of tailoring. It's more of a numbers game than anything else, especially for your first role. One thing to look out for, though, is the actual wording in the job postings for UX design. Because this is a newer profession, there's a lot of postings out there that are going to look a little like a UX designer role, but then have a lot of extra things tacked onto it, like being a front-end developer or a business analyst. So make sure you read the job postings before you actually hit apply and understand what actually goes into a UX design job. Well, that's it, designers. If you found this helpful, but still have questions about transitioning into a UX design career, leave a comment or a like down below, and we'll see you at the next one.